How's it going, everybody? I just want to take a few minutes of your day to talk about something that I'm excited for, and hopefully you're excited for in universes. And while I am excited for the Hero 2 TTS tournament, that's not really the subject of the video, so don't click off yet. I promise it's not just one big ad, but we have to talk about this amazing up jump in pricing. I was floored by this. They casually put this at the start of their most recent upload, but the trading post has made this basically a 1K, a Hero 2 TTS tournament 1K. I don't think we've ever had a TTS 1K before, and we certainly haven't had a Hero 2 tournament 1K. Maybe there was a heroic format one, but yeah, I'm super duper excited for this. I can't thank Free and all the guys at the trading post enough for this. This is absolutely amazing. This is 2 weeks before Worlds, so this is going to be probably one of the biggest and most exciting side events at Worlds, so you can get some practice in, but you can also win a bunch of money to spend while you're basically on vacation in Dallas. So I'm super duper excited for this. We've got Stark Dark throwing in store credit as well. So if you need some last minute cards, next set, you're going to be wanting to buy a box or something like that. So $25 off your next box purchase would be pretty cool. Yeah, very, very thankful for everyone who's made this possible. Hopefully we're going to have a huge turnout now with this prizing. I haven't even mentioned that there's a signed Aizawa XR Eraser head with the 4 RLE promo erases. So absolutely amazing stuff. I'm super, super grateful, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope we have a great time. I know I am going to always have fun at these events, but yeah, very, very excited for that. But what I really wanted to talk about in this video is I wanted to talk about the KOF retro reprints. I think they've done something really cool here. I think the characters that they've chosen are really neat. It's my understanding that all the 3 of these characters will be legal when Godzilla comes out, which is really, really exciting because the 2 characters are old. The one of them's brand new, but Robert and Rio, they weren't super duper competitive. Robert got a lot of play because there was characters that played his attacks really, really well. We had like the diversity rule, and I know there's some people who like chose Robert, but my understanding was he was mostly like a sort of a diversity pick, and you would sandbag into a character that also just played air kicks or order kicks. So, I wouldn't say either of these characters were super, super competitive, but I always knew someone who had a Rio deck, and there was always someone out there with a Robert deck because they were very fun characters. I'm a little afraid that Rio might not be as exciting without Rio's motorcycle. Look that one up on Ultra if you get a chance. It's a really wacky card, but it's the kind of thing you needed to make, these abilities sort of work out for Rio. He always had like over the top stat pump, speed and damage on everything. The first enhance to burn your rival, even if they completely block, is super strong. Really, really strong if you can ever pull it off twice in a turn, right? And I think that both Rio and Robert, they're very interesting aggro characters, right? Neither of them really have a defensive ability, and I'll talk about Robert more in a second because he has a little more versatility. But in the current standard format, there is a lot of tools for cards entering the discard pile that neither of these guys would have ever had anything like in the past. And so the way this is worded is kind of weird, but your punch attack gets damage and then you may discard a card. You can do that during your opponent's attack, right? You can do all the separate sentences, and you just discard a card for no effect. So now that we've got like things that respond for -1 to attack, there's stuff that responds for -2 damage. Like these are really small things, but these are stuff that you might be including in your deck anyway, right? Like a Mikasa's admission seems like it's tailor made for this guy. So I'm really, really excited with the kind of tools that these guys are going to have that they never really had access to in the past. And I think that Rio especially is a high risk, high reward aggro character, which is something the format has really kind of needed. A lot of the characters are really strong aggressively. They are safety aggressive. And what I mean by that is they excel at pumping checks. They excel at smoothing out attacks. A lot of Godzilla's equity in the format is the fact that all the attacks get +3 damage, even if he's committed. So they're all like substantial, right? You never really run the risk of losing your damage pump, losing your big stat, and he himself can just sort of be like an extra resource, which we've seen Hanji Zoe make like a really good amount of use. I played that deck and I was really surprised at how often just being able to commit my character because all the value was front loaded was really, really important. And so Rio doesn't have that. And Rio doesn't have um a lot of check bonus. I mean, now in the current format, he's probably got more than he's ever had, but he himself isn't looking to increase checks. And he himself, despite having the air symbol, him and Robert both do not really want to clear the card pool to continue their offense, but you're going to get some really awesome rewards for playing out like sort of a traditional string. And the way it's sort of set up too, six-hander, play one attack, discard a card, two attack, discard a card, three attack, discard a card, then you're empty handed, right? 3/3 is an amazing stat line to be giving attacks. So I think it's a character that has like a sort of really obvious way to play, right? A really obvious sort of cadence to it. And then the finer points is going to be finding all the different synergies and all the different ways to fire it off. And I really hope that it does have like this high risk, high reward style gameplay element to it. Cause that's what I remember being really fun about Rio. And I don't think because he's limited to punch attacks for his enhances for you can count each attack in the card pool. They don't all have to be punches, but to activate the effects and get the benefits from them, he'll be locked to punches, so he probably won't be like super meta relevant. But I mean, this guy is all over the place when it comes to aggro. And then Robert is kind of interesting because you can play Robert like Rio very similarly. I talked about this actually. If you guys tuned into the 3v3 tournament, this is probably going to sound familiar, but Robert and Rio both give scaling speed and scaling damage. And so if you play Rio, and we talked about, you play one attack, discard a card, that's 1/1, play a second attack, discard a card, that's 2/2, play a third punch attack, discard a card, that's 3/3, you have no cards in hand. Robert can do the same thing. You play your first kick attack, you check a 4, you get +1 speed, or he's for each other attack. I'm sorry. He's for each other attack in your card pool. So you actually don't get 1 speed on the first one. But your kick attack is powerful X. It's the number of face-up attacks in your card pool. So, theoretically, you can discard a card on the first attack for +1 damage. But you actually don't get 1 speed until your second attack. So not quite as powerful. But one thing that Robert does have is he can check a 4. You can do that enhance for no benefit during your rival's turn. So similar to Rio, he's got these weird tools that care about entering the discard pile that gives him an extra avenue of attack. It gives him technically something to do on defense. If you mill a loss of consciousness, that could make all the difference. Randomly hitting it both offensively and defensively. So they've got all these weird tools. And Robert also has sort of a high risk, high reward style game plan where you need extra consistency to get your offense going, because now you need to probably check a 5 to play your attack. And then you need to check a 4, which I used to be able to say a non-attack card, but you have to check a 4 or higher to continue getting your stat pump. So that's an extra level of consistency you'll need on turns. He'll benefit obviously more from ways to get flat bonuses to checks just to like guarantee that enhance that. And then the longer you wait until into your string, the higher you can pump a powerful number. So I think that that's really cool. The fact that he's utilizing the powerful keyword. We've seen Benny Maru. Anyone who's played Benny Maru, he's doing some pretty interesting stuff with it, especially if you include his own attack where you get to draw a card whenever you do the powerful enhance and kind of turn it into discard 2 momentum, draw 2 cards. Very neat stuff. Robert's going to have a similar avenue. Not only is he going to mill cards by checking them, but now he's going to be discarding cards from hand and getting those extra benefits while pumping up powerful, while using things that might modify keyword ratings. Although those are usually responses, and this you give it as an enhance, I don't know. But because it's an enhance, you're going to dodge cards like Armor-Clad Faith. So there's a lot of really cool new avenues. I think these guys, as far as aggro characters go, as far as characters that just do stats, it's very hard to get me excited. But these are 2 characters that I really think are interesting when you're trying to deck build around them and figure out how to structure their offense. It's not just 3 damage to everything. It's not even just 1 damage, 2 damage, 3 damage to everything, right? It's actually, 1 damage for everything. Discard a card sometimes for speed. Maybe you don't if your rival has already telegraphed that they're going to block stuff. Very, very cool stuff. Very excited to see these characters get a new lease on life. And again, I'm very, very interested in trying to deck build for both. My cat's climbing behind me. I don't know if you can hear him climbing up on the furniture. Anyways, very excited for these characters. I hope you guys are too. And I hope that you really enjoy kind of the different ways that they structure their offense. But a character that definitely has defensive potential is King, the Beautiful Kicks Illusion. So, quick sidebar, a little history. King has a special place in my heart for 2 reasons. One is it's one of the only zoning type characters I've ever really enjoyed in a fighting game. Like zoning as a playstyle and like as a tool you can use in fighting games, I totally get. I do it. It's an important part of fighting games. But like actual zoner characters, the Guiles of the world, the Dalsums of the world, characters who, they supposedly don't function, once you get in on them. I've never really enjoyed playing against them. They seem to reduce the game, especially at low level, at my skill level. The game becomes very fundamental, right? It becomes very, very simple. So King was one of the first characters to really change that up. King has, some of the more interesting lore. King has a very interesting look. And then when I first started playing the game, King had the old version of King, the retro version of King, had a first form to gain health. And then if you're at maximum health, you increase your maximum. And, in other games like Magic the Gathering, you can gain health past your starting maximum, which was always fun for me. I enjoy healing in games, and so gaining health in card games kind of makes sense. And so I had made a deck knowing that people were going to just suggest I play other symbols and play better attacks and things like that. But I had made a life symbol King deck for the express purpose of just gaining as much life as possible. And, I think I even posted on the old Jasco forums about it. And of course, I got people saying, well, you should play Earth and Water because they have better kicks. And they weren't wrong. They definitely had better kicks. I didn't own those kicks at the so I don't, some of them were like Water Neomax kicks, I think. But the point is that I just wanted to gain health. I just wanted to see if I could get my maximum health total to be like a 6-handers, like 28 health or something, one at a time, which I think would take like a minimum of 8 turns or something. Anyways, so I made that deck and then I took it to locals and then I was accidentally turn 2ing people. I accidentally played King's signature moves, which are all the attacks with her face on it, and they all work really well with her. And she had a really uninteractable, aggressive game plan. And so I would draw 4 attacks and go, well, I can't really build, and by the 3rd attack, my opponent was dead. King also had a lot of redundancy in her kit, as far as like stacking stats with the same, King adds damage for each card in the card pool. Well, each card in the card pool is also speed, right? And then you just redundantly add damage multiple times with same effect over and over. And it was really, really good. Anyways, so King was like one of those first characters I was able to beat players better than me. It was a character who had such a good aggressive game plan. And you could reduce the game state, to only a few really impactful decisions. And I think you always kind of remember that, like one of the first characters that lets you really beat the people who taught you to play the game, you kind of remember that moment. And so King was really that for me. That was like the first time I took a deck to locals and I was like feeling the power, you know? So I've really been a fan of this character, both in the video games. I've been a fan of this character in universes. I'm really excited to see this take on King, which seems really, really fucking good, actually. So I love the symbols, air, life, order. Not something we get a lot of. I don't think there's been that many characters with that symbol spread. I'm tempted to look it up now in this recording because that is A symbol spread I'm sure I've seen once before, but it's not jumping. Oh, Terry and Darrington. Yeah, okay. Terry and Darrington's got that, and then Raphael and Guile. There's like three characters of all time, and they're printed like in different decades to have this symbol spread. So very cool symbol spread. Air Order has long time been a kicks symbol. Air Order kicks was like really a specific thing. Both air kicks and order kicks also on their own, but specifically air order kicks. So really cool to see that. The enhance to give any attack kick is kind of crazy. I'm really interested to see what's gonna combo with that. There's I think a couple different Chun-Li cards that aren't that good, even if you gave any attack kick. Usually they want cards in your discard pile or something to have kick. So I don't know. But if you have 10 or less health, all of a sudden you start giving everything 2/2, and then you start gaining health back is really strong. Having to be at 10 or less health to give those stats really makes me think that this character might struggle though. However, enhanced commit, your rival commits one foundation for each attack in your card pool is crazy work. I commit one, I commit my character, you commit 3 foundations is an insanely good rate. Even getting the stun 2 off is probably enough to tap your rifle out after most failed backswings. And then every time you block with an attack, every time your rival stuffs your card pool, like if they use Ocean Buddies and you're allowed to pick attacks, right, to add to your card pool, you can ramp up a pretty heavy defensive stun. So this is another character where I see it and it makes me think. It really makes me digest the deck building process. And that's something that we haven't had from a ton of characters. A lot of the characters we've seen recently, I think they do a really great job of going, oh, wow, if I play this, usually a secret rare or an ultra rare attack with this character, they have like an insanely good synergy and it's like a crazy good combo. Like, here's a card that stacks the top of my deck, and then I can draw it at response speed. Here's an attack that puts the card I need in my card pool, and then I can reference it for badass stuff, whatever it is, right? So, like decks like Devil Jin, I don't think Devil Jin gets your ears working on like, oh, what's all the interesting ways to make his enhance work? It's just like, well, here's all the cards that do good shit in the card pool, right? Like here's the cards that do something with your character, and they're really good things, they're really strong things. But King really makes me wonder, like, okay, is there a world where I'm stuffing kicks into my own card pool? Right? Is there like a deflect kick now that I can maybe use to play some really tricky defense when my rival thinks I'm tapped out or something like that? So really, really excited for this. I am a smidge annoyed. I'm a smidge annoyed that these are 3 air characters and they all want to have lots of attacks in their card pool. Granted, Rio and Robert are old ass, retro, whatever, legacy, not quite, I guess we call legacy something different, retro characters. So it might not be fair, like this has always been a struggle with the air symbol. The air symbol has always had stuff that combos, so it needs stuff in the card pool. It wants to count things in the card pool. It wants to specifically have non-attacks in the card pool. It wants to specifically have, certain difficulties of attacks and face down attacks in the card pool. And I'm over here, I just want to clear my card pool. I want to have a clean card pool. You know what card clears card pools actually? Is